A very warm welcome to Conversations with Andre, the big positive guy. In a normal world, we'd be getting together and showcasing some of the best, most interesting, and some of the bravest people that you've ever seen. But during the pandemic, we have decided that we are determined to continue and show this to you online electronically. My role, together with that of my team at Hindberg Public Speakers, is to showcase some of the best speakers in the country and to bring their stories to the world and to showcase them to you. Our mission is simple. It's changing lives one talk at a time. So all you need to do is to sit back, relax, and enjoy it. Who knows, you could be next telling your unique story.
The Paradox of Life. Our next speaker is Tanya Bothma, a survivor who is alive against all odds. She has been blissfully married for 18 years to Skulk. They have a 12-year-old daughter, Daniela, who is not just the apple of their eye, she is the orchard of their eyes. Tanya is fanatical about supporting the Grooteskiel lung transplant unit and vocal about people registering as organ donors. Tanya takes nothing for granted and makes sure she celebrates all the ordinary things in a day. Tanya lives her life to the fullest and appreciates her family, friends, and her 3 dogs, Danny, Peanut, and Daisy.
I am alive today because of someone else's death. My miracle is somebody else's heartbreak. I am standing here today because somebody else's tragedy became my miracle. My family get to spend another day with me while their family mourn another day without them. The paradox of organ donation, a gift to one, yet tremendous pain to another. My childhood respiratory problems left me with chronic lung disease. I had this kind of rochel, a wheezing sound, 24/7, and was teased and told I sounded like Darth Vader. I was never able to take part in any sports or activities at school, and Panorama Hospital became my second home. I never had 3 weddings and a funeral. I had 3 miracles and a funeral. Miracle number 1, I never in my wildest dreams thought I would ever find a man. That saying, al kapot het sy deksel, is so true. I met Skalk in my matric year, and today we've been married 18 years. And what a wonderful man he is. Miracle number 2 was the birth of our beautiful baby girl, Daniela. Instead of decorating nursery or choosing cots, I spent the last 7 weeks of my pregnancy in hospital on oxygen. Daniela was born 2 months premature and spent 3 weeks in ICU. It was probably one of the toughest times of my life, Skalk's life, and baby Daniela's life. Yet, I would do it again in a heartbeat. 9 years later, tragedy struck our family. And my incredible brother Mark was killed in a power paragliding accident. He was 36 years old, and I've missed him every single day since then. My family have experienced both the sadness, yet the miracle that comes along with being an organ donor. What keeps me going is the knowledge that just by donating tissue, Mark was able to help up to 26 other people's lives. Miracle number 3 was a double-edged sword. The call came through. My doctor said, Tanya, we have lungs for you. Are you ready? I had a 50% chance of surviving. I so vividly remember telling Daniela, age 9 at the time, and her looking up at me and saying, "Mommy, are you going to die?" The first thing I remember when waking up 4 days later was Daniela looking down at me with tears in her eyes and saying, "Mommy, I missed your blue eyes." I remember thinking to myself, this is what I fought for. Looking into those beautiful brown eyes, that innocent little voice, and those little hands touching mine. I am the first double lung transplant recipient in a state hospital in Africa. I'm so grateful that in South Africa we have an amazing hospital, Grooteskier. The doctors and staff are out of this world, and if it weren't for them, I would also not be standing here today. I implore you, register today as an organ donor and be the hero in another family's life. I learned to breathe again. Giving up was never an option for me. I exercise, I live life, and I enjoy every moment with my beautiful family. And I do this in honor of my hero, my organ donor. I thank God every day for everything I have. Life is all about tests and trials. Trials make you a better person, a kinder person, a stronger person. Embrace each and every breath that you take. Do not die before your death. Celebrate your life. Live your life fully. I'd like to share a very special quote with you by Nick Vujicic. If you can't get a miracle, be a miracle.
Tanya, I'm so grateful that they gave me a few seconds break so I could compose myself and just get rid of all the tears. What an incredible presentation.
Thank
How are you
you.
feeling now?
I'm feeling on top of the world. I am ecstatic.
It's an emotional thing,
It is.
but you carried it well, and we could feel the emotion, but it was very controlled.
No, it's tough. It's tough. But I can't believe I did it. I did it. I did it.
You did it,
I did it.
and you've done it fantastically.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
One of the things we're doing now is we're just going to have a chat a little bit about the presentation, because obviously in 6 minutes, I can't believe you said so much in 6 minutes. We just want to share with the audience a little bit
Okay.
about what it's really been like.
Sure.
So you and I have had lots of hours of conversation and chat.
We have.
And one of the things that I wanted to ask you is about your childhood. Having a childhood with a lung condition is obviously not very easy.
No.
Tell us about your childhood.
So my mother is a nursing sister. And that one thing where people say all a child needs is love is so true. My parents gave me so much love. And although I was sickly all my life, I was treated the same way as my siblings were treated. I was not treated any differently. If I was sick, my mom would say to me, "Tanya, you get up, you go to school, and if you're not feeling well, you can call me." And I'd come home and she'd look at me, she goes, "Yeah, you're not looking so bad. Tomorrow you're going back to school." So I was taught that no matter what illness you had, you can't feel sorry for yourself, because the real world out there is not going to feel any pity on you. They're going to treat you the same as anybody else. So I was treated the same as my siblings. I think my dad, I got away with a lot more from my dad, but I am as strong as I am today because of my mom. My mom is why I am as strong as I am, and why I've coped as well as
And
what
the
I
actual
have.
school process, did you go to a normal school? Was it all the normal?
I went to a normal school. I was never at school. I was never one of those students that was at school. I was always catching up with homework. That's all I did my whole life, my whole school career. All I did was catch up on schoolwork. I was in hospital a lot in winter. Panorama Hospital became my second home. I was under Jan Vermeulen, the pediatrician there, and he became a second dad to me because I was always in hospital. So he's become family to our family. And I used to lie in the same ward. I used to lie in the same bed. My mother eventually, she was in the labor ward side of Panorama, and she actually moved to the pediatric side so she could be with me because I was hardly ever at home.
Wow.
So my school career was catching up. I never really had a school career. But when I did go to school, I used to walk around with a little nebulizer. And I had amazing friends. And although my brother and I were 15 months apart, and I was the older sister, he was like the older brother. He looked after me, and nobody messed around with my brother. And I remember this one friend of mine, she was absolutely amazing, Mandy. And she would come with me, and we'd go down to reception, to the secretary's office, and we'd go neb, and then we'd chat, and okay, let's have another 5 minutes. Then we'd go up to class again, and we'd catch up, or I'd catch up. And Mandy was a bright girl, so she would just carry on. But yeah, my childhood was tough, but I wasn't treated any differently because of it.
When I first met you, it was an interview on the radio for Smile. One of the things that you said to me, and I was gobsmacked, because I was confronting this beautiful young girl, and you said to me that you thought no one would love you because of this now very famous rochel, the Darth Vader Ross, what should we call it?
The rochel, I always called it.
It's obviously had a big effect on your life.
It did. I think my confidence, I was never confident enough. I used to go and see a lot of psychologists because of it. People would look at me differently. And people can be cruel. I was teased and said I sounded like Darth Vader. People don't think before they speak. And that's one thing I try and teach Daniela as well. Although she's 12, she thinks before she speaks. She does not just say anything because it hurts. Psychologically, it hurts. And I never ever thought I would find a man, because what man would want to be next to somebody that has a rochel constantly? I never ever. I remember looking at the psychologist and saying, I'll never get married. I'll never have kids.
And then one day, some magic happened.
It did. Like I said to you, at school, I was always catching up with homework. And I was catching up with homework once again, and I went to a friend's house. And there Skalk was standing at the balcony. I remember like it was yesterday. And he let me in, and I still said to my friend, but you didn't tell me you had a brother. She said to me, it's not my brother, it's my cousin. And I said, geez, but he's good looking. He was tall, dark, and handsome. He was just absolutely gorgeous. Not like he's not gorgeous anymore, he is. But he was 20 years younger. And he looked past that. And the next day he phoned me and said, can you take me out on a date? And I was so shocked. He said, me? You want to take me out for a date? And he said, yes, may I? And I still remember going to ask my parents. I was never exposed to guys. And I think also because I did homeschooling for a while, I had a very bad attack I was 12 or 13, Daniela's age, and I had a very bad attack, and I was unconscious for 3.5 hours and rushed through to Tygerberg. And after that, my parents decided that homeschooling would be a better option for me, so I wasn't really exposed to guys. And I think that's also why I was scared. And then I joined Hoffman House in my matric year, and that's where I met my friend, and that's how I met Skalk. So things just fall in place.
So for all those people who don't believe there's true love out there,
there's always true love out
what's
there.
that saying that you have?
Alkapotitsedexel.
Yes. I just love that, because you guys have been happily married and you've put up with a lot.
Skalk's put up with a lot, I think. And it just shows you again what an amazing man he is. I'm very fortunate, and I love him to death. And he is my hero as well. And he's put up with so much. He's put up with a lot.
But something even more special happens. Tell us about the process of falling pregnant, because that's a bit of a miracle in itself.
That was. So I was always told I was under the care of John O'Brien at Christian Barnard. And he said to me, Tanya, he said to Skalk and myself that we probably couldn't have kids. So we were married for 6 years. And then my disease, obviously, like any chronic lung disease, it gets worse over time. And they wanted to put me on a new drug. And he said to me, Tanya, if you're going to fall pregnant, you need to do it now. I will give you 3 months, and then I'm going to start you on this drug. Skalk and I went home, and Skalk said to me, sweetie, I don't love you because I want a child. I love you for you. But we made the decision to give it a 3-month go. And I went off the pill, and 3 months later, I was pregnant. So it was a sign. I was meant to have a child. It was a tough pregnancy. My doctor said to me, Tanya, we will help you through the pregnancy. We will push you. But once you've had the child, you're going to be sterilized, because we cannot keep doing it to your body. And I was 29 when I had Daniela. So I was with John O'Brien, and then that was in town, and we lived in Edgemead. So he transferred me to a doctor in Panorama, Johan Tron, absolutely amazing pulmonologist as well. And he was actually the one that looked after me from, having Daniela. And until I had my transplant, he was the actual one that actually spoke to us about transplant in the end. And every time he walked into the room when I fell pregnant, I'd say to him, can you just please take this child out? I can't breathe. He'd say to me, but Tanya, you know, this is your only chance. So I was admitted at 26 weeks, and I lay in hospital for 7 weeks on oxygen.
So for us boys who are not very good at maths, that's sort of, it's going to be 9 months, and just before 5 months, you go into hospital.
I go into hospital.
And you literally then stay on oxygen for 7 weeks.
Yeah, I stayed on oxygen for 7 weeks. I contracted the MRSA virus, so my contact was only with my family. I wasn't allowed to even see my friends. And then Daniela was born 2 months premature. And I remember saying to Dr. Johan, why can't we just take her out sooner? And he just said to me, Tanya, you need to push. You need to push because once your baby comes out, that's it. You're not going to get another chance. So we pushed. And I remember he came in at 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock on a Saturday morning and he said, Tanya, are you ready? And I was like, I can't breathe anymore. Yes. Is it happening now? And I remember phoning Skalk and saying, Sweetie Pie, are you ready? Are you ready to become a dad? And he was like, what? Is it happening? And I said, yes, you better get down here. And I remember just him and my parents and his parents came down and that was Daniela.
I can sympathize with that because I think for anybody who's been pregnant or anybody who has a bit of a boop, obviously that has a huge effect on your breathing. So obviously those were the two things you had to weigh up. How far can you take this pregnancy?
Yeah.
And the other half is how much pressure can you actually take on your lungs before you just don't have enough air?
Yeah.
And how was Daniela afterwards, after the birth?
She, you know, what was amazing is she was the strongest. She had the strongest lungs in the ICU. And the reason being, when you have a prem baby, I think I'm speaking under correction, but I think the last 2 weeks, they give you a cortisone injection for the prem baby's lungs. Now, Daniela, I've been on cortisone all my life. So Daniela had cortisone from day one.
And oxygen for 7 weeks.
Totally. So her little lungs were so strong. You would never say she was a prem baby. I mean, she was in ICU for 3 weeks, but her little lungs were incredible. No.
So you actually have given her a very...
I did.
A sort of sideways gift.
I did. I most certainly did. I did.
I have to speak to you about your brother because he's a big part of your life.
Sure.
Tell us a little bit about Mark, who he was, and the circumstances around him dying.
Okay. So my brother was 36 at the time, and he always felt that you needed to live life, enjoy life, because you don't know when your life is going to end. And I remember speaking to my brother, I don't want to lie, we spoke the June about the double lung transplant. I got my appointment on the 3rd of August, and we spoke about it. And as a family, we sat down and spoke about it, and he said to me, Tanya, go for it. He says, because you know what we believe. And we believe that your time is your time. And whether you are on the table or you're not on the table, you're going to die that day. And the July, Mark loved power paragliding. So it's a motor on your back. It's not from a mountain and you just you come off and you paraglide. And he spiraled out of control. And he hit the ground. And I remember getting the phone call on a Sunday at 5, saying that he was in an accident. And I still remember telling his friend, what do you mean he was in an accident? Is he okay? Is the car okay? And they said to me, no, you don't understand. He was flying and he fell. And I think I never, ever expected my brother to leave me. He was supposed to be with me forever.
That Sunday at 5 had some significance.
It does?
Because it actually played a part in you sort of agreeing, and I don't say we're agreeing because I mean you were really, you were at a stage where I don't think you had much of a choice, but it helped you make the decision. And tell us about that Sunday at 5 story.
So I got the phone call on a Sunday at 5 from my doctor saying that they had lungs for me. And I still remember looking at Skalk and saying, Sweetie Pie, this is a sign. We need to do this. We need to do this. And I felt like my brother was with me. I mean, why would it happen on the same day and the same time? It was just too much coincidence. And what was different about my transplant is that normally you have a 4 to 6 hour period. So the lungs cannot be on ice for long.
Sure.
Well, otherwise they won't start pumping on their own. So I was told that my donor was on a ventilator. So I assume she had an accident. I was given 2 hours to get to the hospital, and they would do the surgery the next morning. I remember my family, we were there literally we got there and the doctor sat us all down and they explained the procedure to us again. I mean, they were absolutely amazing. They took Daniela aside and they explained everything that they were going to do to her mommy. And then they had to go. And I think me being the first double lung transplant recipient, it was traumatizing. It was, I mean, just 5 months prior to that, I lost my brother. And then the next morning, I don't want to lie to you, but I probably saw them for 10 minutes before I was wheeled into theatre. And my family sat in the coffee shop all day. And I was wheeled in at 7, and I was wheeled out again at 5. So if you take into consideration, I mean, obviously you would get wheeled in at 7 and then you have the recovery. I mean, they prepare you and then you have your recovery and then you get wheeled out. But the doctor every hour came and told my family what they were doing, what was happening. Has the one lung been inserted? Has the other lung been inserted? Have they attached the heart to the lung? And yeah, I think, and that's why I say, if it wasn't for my mom, I would not have been able to fight this. And this is what I try and teach Daniela as well, that no matter what happens, no matter how sick, no matter your circumstances, you get up and you keep fighting. Don't give an excuse, because life is full of excuses. Get up and go and do your stuff. And Daniela is. She speaks beautifully. She's caring. She's kind. She thinks about people's feelings. No matter what stands in her way, get up and carry on.
One of the reasons you've agreed to start speaking and telling the story is to pay tribute to those amazing doctors at a government hospital where everyone loves to delight in telling us all the horror stories. But the reality is, I have more wonderful stories about some of the incredible work that these doctors are doing, possibly in trying circumstances, but you can't sing their praises high enough.
I can't. Andre, from the minute I walked into Grooteskiel until I left, I was wowed. I was so impressed. I have so much respect and love for that hospital. My gratitude, like I say, there aren't enough words for me to say thank you. The professors, the doctors, the nursing staff, it's not a job to them. It's so much more. They are compassionate. They are upbeat. They are like little energized bunnies. They are on the go 24/7. They laugh. They care. Even when I was prepped for the transplant, the anaesthetist explained everything in detail. They explained why they were injecting me, where they were injecting me. They explained why they were putting a drip in. You just don't get that anymore. And the D22 ICU and D24, I feel part of the family. The doctors too. I mean, there wasn't a doctor in Grooteskiel that didn't come and say hello to me or to see how I was doing. I have my doctor on WhatsApp, and he still contacts me. Obviously, he still contacts me because I still see him a lot. It's not just about a transplant. We become their family.
And these are some of the top doctors in the country.
Totally.
Absolutely, some of the top doctors in the country, because that's one of the reasons why you're still here with us today.
Absolutely.
An absolute miracle.
Yeah, Dr. Caligaro and Dr. Penn went over to Austria and Sydney, and they learned how to do double lung transplants. And they came back and they opened up their new unit. And that's why all I want to do is just sing praise to them. They are saving us. They are our heroes. They are saving the little family that we have is all due to them. It's only because of them. And I can't thank them enough. They are my hero.
The one thing that everyone asks me, and even I must say, is that I was very curious about it, is the first time I saw you and you had a sort of a top that was open at the top, I was peeping at the zoom and I thought to myself, where's the scar?
Yeah.
Because I assumed like a heart transplant or whatever, you've got this big cut through the middle of your chest, but there are absolutely no scars that are visible. And so I had the boldness to ask you how they did. But share with our viewers out there, what does the operation look like? Because I had no concept of how complicated this operation actually is.
Okay, so they call the incision a clamshell. So they cut you from under your arm right through to your other arm, and they break your sternum. And then I explain it to people. They open you up like a bonnet. And it's like, and I mean, they've put things to hold you up here, and it's like a square almost, and they work inside the square. All I can say is when I woke up, the pain was, I can't even describe the pain to anybody. The pain was just out of this world. It was hectic.
Because, they've got to connect so many parts. We think about our lungs, but we forget that you've got to connect it to the throat, you've got to connect it to the heart. There's arteries
yeah.
coming in and out of it.
Yes. So what happens is when you go under, they connect you. So it's an ECMO machine. So an ECMO machine does the work of a heart and a lung. So they put a pipe in your largest artery or vein, large vein or artery, in your neck. Mine was here in my neck, or in your groin, and then it takes the blood out and it pumps through this machine, and it oxygenates, and then it gets pumped back in, because you don't have lungs in your body, and they've disconnected your heart. So if you can say it like this, you're a corpse lying there. So you are really in the hands of our Lord,
Sure.
the doctors, and the staff around them. So you're putting 100% trust in them. And that's why I say, I can't thank them enough. Here I am. I'm here, I'm breathing.
It is a little bit like magic. It's like something that you can't even imagine.
It is.
So you have the operation, you go in at 7 o'clock, there's a bit of prep and there's a bit of come down time, you get out at 5 o'clock.
Yes.
This is a Monday.
This is a Monday.
When do you wake up?
So I asked my family this. Apparently I started being a little bit more conscious on the Wednesday, but I woke up on the Thursday. And I remember Daniela saw me every day. She would not go for a play date. She wanted to be with her dad. And although, Andre, I looked terrible. I had pipes everywhere. I mean, you've got drains coming out of you. You've got drips. You've got... you look hectic. My little girl was brave. I'm so proud of her. But I remember waking up and I said to my doctor, don't take my oxygen off. But one thing I did do when I woke up was, this rochel affected me for 38 years. And the first thing I remember was, can I hear anything?
And
I could hear nothing.
no
And I
rochel.
started crying. And I still said, thank you, Lord. Because I felt normal for the first time ever. I felt normal. And then I remember looking at my doctor and I said to him, I'm battling a bit to breathe. Like, why am I not? And, people have this misconception that you have, obviously we are all different. I'm not saying we are the same. But I could not breathe. And obviously for 38 years, I breathe from up here. I never breathe from my diaphragm.
So you're almost panting.
Yes. So I had to be taught how to breathe again. I had to be taught to use my diaphragm. And I remember when I woke up, the first thing I had to do was, so he said to me the oxygen would not be removed, but they had to put in a nasal tube because I was losing weight. I was not eating. And it's like I had just conquered something, and then I had to face something else. Like, I was in so much pain, and now they're putting pipes down my nose. It was hectic. But at that time, you'll do anything. You are so sore. You're just lying there. You're like, oh, just do what you have to do. Get it over and done with. And then I was forced to sit in a chair. And I still thought to myself,
How inconsiderate are these people? Do they not know that they're just sawing you in
I'm
half?
so sore. And they're going to be so careful as to how they pick you up.
Yeah.
And I remember when I woke up, I could not move my arms. My arms lay like this next to my side for 7 days. I could not move my arms. And that was also frightening. But if you think about it logically, they've put your arms to the side for 8 hours. Also, they're cutting all your nerves. It's one of the most complicated operations out there at the moment.
Yeah.
More so than a heart transplant. So the getting up and sitting in a chair, like my doctor said, Tanya, unfortunately we have to do this because we can't afford an infection. And I don't know if you know, but a lung transplant, you are susceptible to germs immediately. It's not like a heart transplant or a kidney transplant or a liver transplant where it's closed. It's a closed organ. Your lungs are not a closed organ. So that's why it's also so difficult, because you're prone to infection so much quicker. So they've got to get you moving around. And then an hour later, I was told I have to start walking. And I was like, I can't believe you want me to walk. I could not stand up. So I remember the physio helping me, and I was put onto a walker, and she'd hold me from behind and put her hands on my hands, and we'd have to walk. And I remember my family coming in to visit me, and they looked through the doors, and they just started crying.
You take a lot of medicines.
Oh, you do. A lot.
You're like a portable pharmacy.
You are.
Still today. I mean, you
Yep.
still take a portable pharmacy. Tell us a little bit about all the medication and maybe just those first months that after you've had the operation.
So I still take about 23 tablets in the morning. Initially, it's a lot more than that. And then, so you have it morning and evening. So your morning is 23, or well, I think it was about 27 or something initially. And then your night is also 27. And my doctor always said to me, Tanya, don't worry, it's going to get less. I'm like, okay, cool. But like I said to you earlier on, I felt I don't know what chemo is like, but I've heard what people complain about when they're on chemo. And the side effects that we experience as transplant patients is you get a metallic taste in your mouth. And that was about 3 months. You get a tingling sensation around your lips. Your teeth are so sensitive. You get, I lost my hair in patches. I couldn't face tea or coffee. That smell. I vomited a lot after transplant. I remember my doctor saying to me while I was in ICU, Tanya, this is your honeymoon phase. And I still looked at him, I'm like, I don't understand how you can say this is my honeymoon phase. But when I got home and I was faced with tea or coffee, and I love my chocolates, I couldn't even eat a chocolate. And I still remember saying to my doctor, please tell me this is not how it's going to be. And he said, Tanya, your body has to get used to this medication because it's a hectic medication. You're on immune suppressants. Yeah. You're on cortisone. You're on so much because we can go into rejection at any time. Rejection is something that we do fear, but we try not to think about. But now I only have 10 tablets at night and I have
Only
23.
10?
Yeah, 23 meds in the morning. So my biggest chunk is in the mornings, and I love evenings because it's like, chip, chip, put it down and I'm finished. Yeah. But yeah, you suffer a lot of side effects. I didn't suffer too many. I had a blood clot in my left lung. I had a fungal infection after surgery that was in the lungs. Well, it wasn't in the lungs. It was more where they connected the heart to the lungs. So it was on the outside. So I was on medication for that for a long time. I was on warfarin for a very long time. I was on Clexane for a very long time, which is because of the blood clot. So you inject yourself. That was hectic. I did have mild rejection, but they caught it very early so that they could help with giving high doses of cortisone. And I got a heart flutter, and that was also due to them connecting the heart to the lungs again. So I suffered a few complications, and like my doctor reminds me, Tanya, it's really not many. And I look at him and I'm like, not many for you, but for me it was enough.
But look at you now. Just look at you now. You've been rattling on.
I know.
It's like you don't need breath.
No.
It's like you've got used to speaking without air.
Yeah.
And you're living an amazing life. It's now 3 years later. And one of the things that you're doing this for is to, first of all, say thank you.
Yes.
But the other thing, and we didn't mention this with your brother earlier on, is when your brother had the accident, he obviously very few of his organs could be used.
Yes.
But there was a lot of other stuff. And I've never heard this. As an organ donor, I haven't heard about the other stuff.
Okay.
Tell us a little bit about what all the other things that we can donate.
Okay, so with my brother falling the way he did, he was not able to donate his organs. Now, organs is you can save up to 7 lives by giving an organ. So Mark was able to help people by giving tissue. Now, tissue is your cochlea, your cornea, a heart valve, skin, bone marrow, heart tendons. So Mark was able to, so with tissue, you can help up to 50 people. And Mark was able to help up to 26 people by just donating tissue. So as an organ donor, they will decide what they can take from you. So they can take organ or they can take tissue.
You never found out who your donor was?
No.
What do you know?
What I do know is that she was a woman. I know that, like I said to you, I suspect she was in an accident. After a year, we are allowed to write a letter, if we so wish, to thank our donor family. It was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. How do I say thank you to somebody that's lost a loved one? And here I am, alive. And I think the only reason I could do that is because I lost my brother. And I know how he helped people. And he was my hero, and she's my hero.
Sure. 3 years later, you have a wonderful husband, you have a beautiful daughter, you're leading a full life. You have a message, and you want to share that message. And I think maybe we should just speak to the viewers directly and say, why are you telling this very personal, very intimate story? What are you hoping to get out of it?
I don't think there's enough emphasis on being an organ donor. I'd like people to know how grateful we are when somebody gives organs. Be the hero in another family's life. Leave a legacy and let it live on.
Tanya, from my heart, from my lungs to you, thank you so much. You
Thank
have
you.
been absolutely remarkable in this process of learning, the process of speaking in public, but also your vulnerability in sharing the story. If you think we've been crying, it's not. The studio is incredibly hot. And this is just a little bit of perspiration which is dropping onto my cheeks here. But thank you so much. I can't wait to see the difference that you're going to make in the world.
Andre, thank you. From the bottom of my lungs, a big thank you.